Right.
Listen, man, great to see you. Great to see you. Super excited. But listen, thanks for coming tonight. I want to introduce John Vitti. John is a very good friend of mine, and this is part of the amazing journey of being an investor or founder entrepreneur. John started a company called Versus Game, and so we're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about kind of his journey as an entrepreneur, and I think there's a lot of great, amazing things you can learn from that. And also, John is, we were talking tonight over dinner that his company maybe had to be born in Silicon Valley, but I'm encouraging him to move down here to maybe almost get away from some of the Silicon Valley thinking and a little bit more into some of the people that choose to live around here that are a little bit more creative. So with that, let's get started. So John Vitti, CEO of Versus Game. John, before we talk about, or let's give a tiny snapshot. How much money have you raised in funding for Versus Game to date?
37, 38.
So that's $38 million. So that would get you one really nice place down here, or even a couple places, right? That's like some real money. You've seen a lot of Hollywood movies where they're killing each other for a lot less, right? Like wood chipper getting sawed up for a lot less money.
Yeah.
So some serious money. So there's a story behind raising that much capital.
It's also the quality of the money too, and not just the dollar amount. Like the people behind it, it's what makes it.
Hey, that is a very good point, and I'm lucky to count myself among your investors. Do you disclose? I mean, this is going to go out on the internet. Do you disclose what GMV was for last year? That's been kind of a while ago.
Yeah.
Just give people a thumbnail about how
Yeah.
big small this company has gotten to be.
$105 million GMV, 22 million MAUs, monthly active users.
Okay, wait, say that again slowly.
$105 million in GMV. That's money in the game.
Wait, time out. What is GMV? All right. Okay.
Yeah.
5 points of your grade goes up if you get GMV right.
Gross
Nika.
merchandise value? No.
Yeah, I'll take that. I'll take that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Nika gets 5 points.
For sure.
Remind me.
Actually?
Yeah, hell yeah. This is very much Versus Game.
Yeah, let's play a game tonight.
We're having a good time tonight. So that means top line was how much?
13.5 million.
13.5 million.
Yeah. That's our
Okay, so the GMV really means top line. So gross merchandise is like, I once invested in a company that was selling theater tickets on Broadway, but through your phone, and they give you the same price as the poor tourist from Ohio sitting in the snow at the TKTS booth in Times Square. You know, you sit in the back of your car and book that same damn ticket, but they would charge the face value of your Hamilton ticket or whatever. And so they take in $100. Their take rate was a percentage of that. And their take rate was 5%. So they do 100 million GMV. Companies only get 5 million a year to pay salaries, right? Now these guys, what is your take rate on $100 million of revenue?
12.5%.
12.5. So there you go. So that's a quick thumbnail of like where we're at now. Let's go totally back to the beginning. So John, how did you end up in Silicon Valley, and what was your first business as an entrepreneur?
Okay, so the day after I graduated from university, I left the East Coast. The day after was a bag and a one-way ticket to California. Fell in love with California. Haven't left since. Stayed up in the Bay Area in SF. And I jumped into a company called Proofpoint. It was an anti-spam company. I was kicking butt there, but I was just stupid. I was young, had a big ego. I thought I could do things better and differently, like the hallmarks of an entrepreneur, for better or for worse. And so I went off my own and started 4 companies before Versus Game. My first 2 failed miserably.
Wait, can we time out?
Yeah.
4 companies before Versus Game. So raising money from celebrity entrepreneurs, and not me, but these other celebrities you will hear of. And then getting a business that like is a really valuable business. Like we could argue that this is the Twitter that matters for businesses before that. So overnight success, thinking your very first business is going to be an instant hit. This guy's James Brown. Keep going.
Yeah, I know that. I wouldn't change a thing. You learn a lot. You learn a lot more when you fail, obviously. You guys know that. The first two failed. My last two I successfully exited. One was in the consumer space. It was actually men's clothing. We were in stores from Saks and Neiman's all over the world. And then that was acquired. And then I jumped into a completely different space, tech space, B2B SaaS business. I raised about 14 million from Silicon Valley VCs, had clients like Google, Facebook, Microsoft, Yellow Pages, Yahoo, sold that. And the whole time I had this idea, which is Versus Game, which is a prediction game where you get rewarded for being right. We want to put real money in real people's pockets. So we're letting people predict the outcome of culture, which means a lot to a lot of different people. It's always changing. So we're a mirror of culture. And so because we're actually trying to do good, because our mission is knowledge should be rewarded, it just scales up so quickly. Because it's UGC, all of us can get in the game now. So that's why it's going fast.
Okay, so let's kind of rewind a bit again. So what does Versus do? Like, how do I interact with it? And obviously, guys, I know the answers to these questions because.
Yeah, it's kind of, the vibe is like TikTok meets Coinbase, if you will. So you're seeing content, it's video form, and it's questions about something that's happening in the future. Whether it's MTV Music Awards to the weather, traffic in LA, doesn't matter, whatever future event's happening, you can go on there, and if you know what's going on, you're like, oh, I bet this is gonna happen. And you can actually win money from that prediction. So it's basically like social.
Well, hang on. So let's say Nika, what is she? She downloads it onto her phone, right? That's kind of step one.
Or play it on mobile web, whatever.
On the mobile web. And then what does she do?
Once you create an account, you just start browsing like you would on TikTok or search on anything on YouTube. And then you see a game you like, let's say it's music. So one of our official partners, Billboard.com, puts up a question like Drake versus Kanye, which song will be higher up in the charts by Friday at noon? And you're a big Drake fan, so you're gonna put $1 worth of coins in on Drake, then the machine goes up and finds your match like Tinder. And so that means everyone else picks Drake as well. It passes over all of them until it finds me. I'm on the other side of the marketplace because that's what we really are, a prediction marketplace. And then we match up. One-on-one, no odds, no pool, nothing like that. And then fast forward to Friday, Drake's song is higher up. So congrats, you win your dollar back plus my dollar. That's $2 of GMV. And we take 12.5% of that.
You guys get it? So it's a bit like,
So whatever's going on here, it could be Ozark is like on fire on the game right now.
it could be, what's the price of Ethereum going to be by Friday? What's the price of this stock? This happened. So basically it's binary events, flip a coin. Is it heads or tails, right? So it's either yes, no binary for things.
Yep.
And what's the average bet?
The average wager size is like $3. It's all microtransactions. We have people winning hundreds of dollars, thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars, and hundreds of thousands of dollars. The fastest guy ever made $620,000 in 2.5 months. So it's legit.
How old is that
real
guy?
money. He's probably, I don't know.
What does he look like?
Probably looks like me. I mean,
Like yours?
I don't know. Yeah.
Oh, he's like 18?
Yeah. 40 something.
Well, so you actually have, I mean, sometimes I think about John's business and I think people express themselves on Twitter just to the point of screaming, on the street at 3 a.m. to annoy the neighbors. Where here, it's like I have an opinion about something in the world and I should be rewarded for my knowledge.
Yeah, like if
it's a human thing.
Yeah, it is a human thing. It's that primal reptilian part of your brain. It's like you will have these opinions and predictions no matter what. So it was really important for us when we started the business, for me, that I did not want to create a new human behavior. I want to support what you're already doing. This is already your habit. Humans want to go on and go further. They're like betting on what's going to happen in The Bachelor, they're going to get the rose or not, right? But then that's it. You just talk to the person beside you, but we give them the platform to express themselves and to actually give reward.
So can anybody just log in and say, I want to throw up a binary question?
As of last week, yes. Before that, it was all curated, so we only have like celebrities, about 800 celebrities influenced on there, from like KD to Kevin Hart to Josh Richards, Addison, Ray, Bryce Hall, Noah Beck, which are all our investors now. Because they saw the deal, because they're making this much money on Twitter and they're making millions of dollars on Versus, and they were like, oh shit, let me become an investor as well. So they come in.
So let's say I've got, where's Jean-Michel?
Right.
Let's say I'm Jean-Michel over here. Jean-Michel's got 5 million followers on Insta. He decides to throw something up that's culturally of interest to his followers. And it's a binary, yes, no. Will this happen or will that happen? Will this song be number one or not? How does he make money?
So we share 25% of our revenue with our hosts, our creators. Yeah. So you're making mailbox money, because you can't make any money on any other social network, except if you get a brand deal, and people, the viewers, the audience, hate interrupted brand deals, like advertisements, right?
So now, what are the other things, and Jim, I was telling you this when I was calling you from my changing plans in Houston to get here today. That John Vitti, I think, one of his amazing talents is business development. And you've got a very interesting business development, like religious outlook of the world. But these guys just keep turning introductions into relationships with businesses. So when you approach Billboard, or just list any one of the BD business development relationships that you guys have inked, how do you like who would you approach? Who did you approach? And under what argument did you close them?
Yeah.
Beyond your unique charm. But
yeah. You only want to talk to the chiefs, the C-suite. And they'll bring it to the people, their deputies and the lieutenants that they want to. But it's like any other relationship. Like, how do you get a deal done in any relationship? You have to kind of explain to them why it would work, what the value is, what do they need, what do you have, how can we work together, right? So we came up with 3 things, because it's impossible to say no to 3 things, all 3 things, right? If you pitch somebody one thing, 50-50 chance it's not going to work. 2 things, your odds go up. 3 things, they have to say yes to at least one thing.
Meaning 3 things
3 proposals, 3 ideas. Yeah, 3 value adds.
Okay.
Yeah. And so we had that rule of thumb with 3, and then we started having these conversations, and we did get lucky because our cap table, our investors started these companies from Google to TikTok to whatever. So we got walked in there and they all wanted these 3 things. So we honed those 3 things.
So give me 3 value prop things that you put in front of a partner, and who is the partner, if you can say, or at least genericize who they are.
Yeah.
And how did you close them, and what does that mean?
So like Snapchat, it was a whole new revenue stream that's ad free.
Boom. So guys, do you want to see more ads? I remember somebody made me a mixtape from SoCal when I was living in Paris, actually, and it said, play less music and more ads. And they just like squeezed that in. I thought that was hilarious. Like, nobody wants you to play more ads and less music. And like, that was the DJ joke from LA. So you're coming up with a way of saying, you've got traffic, let's throw more monetization cash at you without any introduction of ads.
Yeah. Yeah, like Spotify augment their ad revenue with our interactive game revenue. So have you ever played a game with your podcast, your favorite podcast, or interacted with them? Like, probably never. Like,
But they're doing it.
I wouldn't, I mean, if you did, that's awesome.
I'm gonna stick this on Spotify, because I use Anchor.fm,
Yeah.
and it blows it out to all the things, and they say, do you wanna add a poll?
Mhm.
And like, I've always been like, well, do I really wanna do that? I don't know. They say like, do you wanna add a poll? So they're trying to create engagement.
The problem with polls is that it's work. It's kind of like if you're like, oh, let's have a survey or trivia. It's work, right? What am I getting out of it? What's the user getting out of it with a poll? It's nothing, right? But if you make it a prediction, my ego's in play now. and I gotta know if I'm right. The human ego demands it, right? So it's just a behavioral shift.
So this one value prop of saying, you're Daniel Elk, by the way, I knew Daniel, trying to get him to join the Founders Club when he had Stardoll, we rejected him. Where this was like, throw your equity into my pool and you get a slice of all the different startups that are in the pool. And that was, his company was Stardoll, where you can design your own Barbie doll clothing. And then you send it, and then they make it and ship it to you, and then you stick it on your Barbie doll. His nut company after that was Spotify.
Nice.
Yeah, but so a value prop to Daniel or any of these guys was, you've got your traffic, you've got your users, you've got your engagement, how to get more engagement and yet get paid more monetization revenue with no ads.
Yeah, I mean, the ads are legacy, right? It's we're shackled. The only way these companies can make money is through ads. Raise your hand if you like ads. There's this huge disconnect, right? And especially with Web3 coming, the ads in this current form it needs to shift because the power shift is going from the brands to the people. So it would have to change shape.
Okay, so monetize traffic with no ads. Value prop number 2.
Number 2 is true engagement, real interaction. Instead of just sitting there drooling and watching a Twitch stream, you actually get to interact with it and play with it. So I'm just instead of just drooling and watching Netflix, I can play with it now.
And, to some extent, that's, I wouldn't want to be competing with you on that, but that's become a slightly noisy space. Like, we've invested in a bunch of companies that are trying to create engagement platforms, like, something that does happen if you're really active, like if every single person in this room worked, if John and I ran a VC fund and all of you were partners and employees, believe me, every Monday at our meeting, you'd be like, this is another engagement deal. Like that's a noisy space. A lot of people trying to say that. So it's tough to punch through.
It's also a soft good. It's kind of soft. How do you what's that really worth in dollars? How do you take that to a bank?
Show me that engagement.
Right.
So the engagement is, people have a primal human need to say,
It's interact with culture.
I'm banging my fist on the table and I'm wrong like Hitler, like I am right.
Yeah.
Like they're either right or they're wrong and they're passionate about it.
Yeah, I think since it is a noisy space, everyone is vying for time. That's the only thing we have to give. And so if Netflix is trying to beat up, TikTok is trying to beat up, Billboard and Spotify, they're all trying to steal each other's time, all our time. So it's something is there.
So on a business like yours, there's some chicken and egg stuff going on here. You had to build the matching machine, you had to build the technology, this required cash, you had to get the influencer people on board to be able to launch their binary this or that kind of games. And then you needed people that had a following, right? Have you kind of walk through how you conquered some of those, breakthrough things that were kind of, you get stuck, never get going?
Yeah, so the way back machine would be, started this and we pivoted because the original game or experience was kind of like fantasy sports, like DraftKings, but for execs, like CEOs and founders of companies. So put Zuckerberg with, Sergey with Schmidt.
Oh my God, really?
Yeah, and I know.
You never told me this.
This is why I pivoted. And then whatever they're doing in the marketplace, you would win, right? And so we thought it was a great idea. We're gonna take down Wall Street, like blah blah, democratize Wall Street and all that shit. And then no one gave a fuck about it. And so
Yeah, I can see.
yeah. And
You put Larry Ellison in a cage match with Zuckerberg, all wrote for Larry.
It's not a fight, but how they're doing in the stock market, right? But yeah, and so then no one really cared, and then we said, wait, why don't we just simplify the shit out of this? And so that's what Versus is today. But the original thing was, because of some of my exits, I was able to put like $1 million in my own, and then I also had angels that came from my last companies into this company, which is really important because once you make them money, we're we're friends for life. And then, but you can do a lot with no money or a little money. You can give equity away to design firms and dev shops to help with things, and you can promise to pay them later. There's a lot of that going on too, but you really need a good idea. And once you have a V1 beta or alpha out, then you just gotta go and spend some money or try to get friends and family to go out there, put the word out on social, and just do anything you can to get some eyeballs on it, because you're not gonna figure it out in a lab, or it needs to be real people, real ammo only, right? And so after that, and that feedback, you iterate and change things up, and then you get some traction, and you start going out to get some real money, and then it just kind of snowballs from there and say, hey, I got some money in, why don't we partner up? And it's like, no, I don't want to partner up with you, you're nobody. And then you got to go and just find, 1,000 no's before you get a yes, but then you do get a yes. And then that brings in some celebrities and then more investors, and it just builds on like that.
Well, John, I want to get a little more granular on the steps that you went through to get where you are, especially on like this class is looking at everything from the perspective of the founder and the VC or angel investor. But you and I had some long conversations about like how it's ethical. In fact, it's completely ethical, and it's really great with this kind of Wall Street driven world that we're living in. Like I'm trying to operate an ESG fund that is really doing good for the world. And you could invest in a drug dealer, weapons manufacturer, or you could invest in something that's good. So like, where are you going to put your energy? And I'm just trying to be all good. There was a little concern on my end, you may remember, of young people getting into gambling, and man, you completely floored me with this is a positive thing in the world, especially when you look at the Wall Street. So maybe share with the group here, share with the Chapman team about your view of how Wall Street operates and how Versus is, entering this realm.
Well, to get too deep into that would be for another time, but for Wall Street itself, I mean, there's a lot going on there. That's just, unethical and totally illegal. But, there's a lot of influence there. With a lot of money, you get a lot of influence, but it's all good. Wall Street's a game, right? And so is Versus game. And the difference is that we're just for the masses, and it's low risk, tiny microtransactions. But what's important is that we're trying to put real money in real people's pockets. We're trying to level the playing field. So for people that all we do is consume, we're really good at consuming and spending money. But we want some back too. We want to get on the action too. So why not? And so we're trying to flip it, level the playing field, and the masses come in and own a piece of, Tesla and Cardi B and Spotify. Why not? They're good at taking our money, but why can't we get some of that as well? We're the consumers. We're the ones using all these products and services, talking up all these apps.
So I wanted to make sure we cover that before we run out of time. But let's return to, so there was company 1, company 2, company 3, company 4. You were able to make a financial return for your investors, and some of them followed you into this one. So that kind of got things going. How did you get introduced to? First of all, does anyone here know who Eric Schmidt is? All right, so Eric Schmidt was the CEO of a company called Novell in Utah, which was controlled all networking among PCs and computers. Most people don't know that. They mostly know him for becoming the CEO of Google. And so you had Larry and Sergey with the founders. And one of the smart things they did was they brought in Eric Schmidt, who you could argue flawlessly built that thing up to a $1 trillion company that'll be a multi-decatrillion-dollar company. When was the last time you talked to Eric Schmidt, or what's his involvement been in this company?
I talk to him every week. I crashed at his house twice.
By the way, a friend of mine in the Valley put the bulletproofing in his walls.
Oh, really?
Yeah, one of my neighbors. Yeah, he's got bulletproofing in every wall of that house you've been in, which you're going to invite me to, I think.
Yeah, it's Paris Hilton. Paris Hilton come there. Their families all.
Hey, you sent me the photos of that.
Yeah, no, I get introduced to him by Sergey. Sergey Brin was an investor, is an investor.
Do you guys know who Sergey Brin is? That's right. And co-founder of Google. Worth a little bit.
Yeah, like top 5, 10, something like that.
It's like beyond Walmart.
Yeah, and yeah, so I get to talk to them.
How'd you meet Sergey?
I had through his wife. That's a story from Cole,
Yeah, she had a company called, it was an intellectual property company.
a lawyer, a legal company.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it reminds you when to file for your patent
Yeah.
next thing.
Do you know Nicole?
Yeah, because of Dylan Gittleman. He was
Dylan Gittleman?
He's on her board.
By the way, this guy graduated from Chapman right here. It's a good friend of mine.
Yeah,
He's my ride today.
Small world.
yeah, it's a great school. I mean,
Look at you now.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so we were lucky to have some really great investors, Reid Hoffman, Mark Pincus.
All right, Reid Hoffman, founder of LinkedIn, and then went to, I just want to say Greycroft, but Greylock.
Greylock, yeah.
Yeah.
Mark
Big
Pincus
VC.
started Zynga, to Sean Rad started Tinder.
And Zig is key. I mean, so Mark Pincus has invested with us, I think, 5 times.
Oh, nice.
And you keep telling me I gotta know this, so it's like 6 times. He's the founder of Zynga, which was like, I mean, to me, it's like obvious to use Facebook to grow your gameplays, but it's kind of like Mr. Games, right? I mean, Zynga.
Oh, you started it.
I mean, yeah, so I mean, Zynga is just like, if the guy who founded Zynga, who's like a wonderkind of Silicon Valley on gaming, not to mention real gaming, backs you, that is such a strong signal. So I think this goes to, let's revert to a theme that John mentioned before. This guy is not like, hey, you're the dumbest person willing to overpay on the valuation. John handcrafted every investor you've taken onto your cap table like you were making some fine blended wine.
I think it's about being, having a good idea, having some traction, and being authentic. Like if you take away anything from this, from talking to me for 10 minutes, is be authentic. No one wants to get sold. You need to want to have a relationship, or people are not going to fucking give you the time of day. Period. And then I think a part of the steps that I didn't cover, which are the most important steps. I mean, I don't know if anybody here, when they were kids or even in college, like, hey, when I grow up, when I graduate from college, I want to be broke. I want to be an insomniac. I want to lose my friends. I want to have no balance in my life. I want to be stressed out all the time. I want to have no plan. I want to have lawsuits coming after you all the time. Like, that's what happens as an entrepreneur. Being an entrepreneur sucks.
I was about to say, I had almost all those except for the no friends bit.
Oh yeah, you lose every relationships, girlfriends, all kinds of stuff. But you kind of come out of that. It's awesome, but you have to be willing to go through that. The only way you can actually get through that grind is by doing something you actually have to do. So you can't want to have to get rich, be popular and famous, make money. You'll fail. You have to have this big need. It keeps you up at night. It's like an itch you gotta scratch. You have to do it. You're not gonna be satisfied. You're not gonna be happy. So if there's something there that is driving you to do something, and it's to help other people or accomplish something, then you can get anything done. Then you have this gravity around you, this orbiting around you, people that are pioneers and legends trying to help you, because they'll try to help you because they see it and it's authentic. That's really important. So
You've got a plane to catch, and you're cool enough to fly down here for tonight dinner in this class. Talk a minute about, you've talked to me about empathy before, and I think that's meaningful into how it goes hand in hand with your authenticity.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you can teach it, but I think it's something that you have to have. Being aware of others, what their needs are, what they want, being authentic. sympathizing for what they're doing in their life, right? How do you help them? The more people you can touch and help, then you can go make millions of dollars. And that making a few $1,000,000 is easy, but like helping millions of people, that's the real power, and that's gonna really feed your internal bank too, and that's really important.
Right, so the definition of being a billionaire is helping a billion people, not making $1 billion. All
Yeah.
right, so let's open it up to questions.
At the point where you're like getting all these awesome investments from these high net worth people, like what are you actually pitching them? Like what tangible do you have besides the idea at that point? How long does it take to get to that point where you're ready to pitch them?
So back then, when I first started this, like 3.5 years ago, or released it, you know, this company was, hey, they're buying into me because I already made them money, but let's pretend I didn't because I did it a few other times before that. You basically need the idea, you need a plan, and you need some traction. Like you can't really show up anymore with a napkin, like all those stories and books you read of like, hey, I had an idea with a buddy at a bar and we wrote it on a napkin, now I'm on my fucking yacht. That's all bullshit.
However, I like to fund people that have the napkin, but they're like on my boat.
Yeah.
So it's like, you know, if John tells me he's doing another company, I'm like, all right, dude, let's play a game. You tell me later what this thing's about.
Yeah. Yeah, it's about the people, it's about the relationships. But to answer your question, like have some traction and have some of a team around you. Go get, and the way to go and to do that, is go get an advisor. Go get somebody that's awesome, that you can have a relationship with, that you're not asking them for anything like money. You just want to learn from them. And then you can say, hey, by the way, I got this person that's, you know, on my team now, or they're an advisor. And then lo and behold, that advisor will probably connect you with a bunch of people too. But you never want to really approach them that way. Just say, hey, I want to pick your brain, I got this idea. And it needs to be authentic, you know?
So like meeting all these big investors that you have, like, do you think that was more a product? Like, do you think a lot of that was just a product of you being in San Francisco? Or
A little bit. I'm down here once a week. And there's a lot down here, like Scooter Braun, Katzenberg, Haas, William McMahon, they're all here, investors. But you're gonna have to go just own all of California if you're gonna be like in a tech company or a tech entertainment company.
Yeah, I think you're a unique mix. We talked about this at dinner that we're saying like, you gotta get away from your parents that are on the East Coast. They're gonna tell you to become an accountant or a doctor kind of thing, right? And then Silicon Valley is changing, but I think your company has to be born there, and I think you belong down here now.
Yeah,
And I think you should now get away from the Valley thinking, but that's maybe a private conversation.
no, I think you're right. I think I'm gonna be moving here soon.
All right, cool.
Oh.
No, you-
Okay. So you mentioned that you had two like failed companies before you had a company that like had an exit or an acquisition. Was it hard to go back and raise funding after your failed ventures? Like, did you feel like discouraged or like worried about going back to investors when you weren't successful?
No, I don't really give a shit about that. Yeah, the past is the past.
Yeah.
And it's funny when some investors that said no before are begging to invest it with me now. Even before this thing became what it is. So the investors, they care about, as soon as they see something that they like, they know it's gonna hit, then they're in, then they're like, whatever, I don't care, whatever, what you did in the past, I'm in this now. So yeah, I mean, being afraid is crazy, I think. So, but it's important to, you know, understand the environment. Yeah.
I've had multiple failures and wins dealing with some of the same people, and when people lost money with me, I kind of said to myself, hey man, you were investing in my deal for greed. You saw Morgan Stanley get an IPO as you were in right before the IPO. So you lost all that money. I don't owe you anything. You were in this for greed. You want to get into my next deal? I'll be super polite, but you know, I don't owe you for that. You were in that for greed. It wasn't like you were my uncle.
Yeah.
You know, and it's
Never
like,
take money from
it's a full-grown contact sport. You know,
Yeah.
you got to be a big boy, big girl about that, I think.
Yeah, I every time I talk to people now, I tell them that I failed. First thing that comes to my mouth, like the first 3 minutes, because they actually now respect you more because you tried and fucked up and failed. Because if you just got it right, how do I know you can do it again? How do I know what are you gonna look like and turn into when things get hard, right? And so they don't want to do that on their own dime, but they want you have done that in the past.
By the way, on the continuum of this side, entrepreneur is a grifter, obfuscating the truth, trying to fool us into investing. And then this side being a total open kimono, showing you everything. No, I remember I was at a hotel in San Francisco, so I'm like coming back and I'm asking you about your numbers. And you're like, why don't I just give you a login to my QuickBooks? I was like, what?
Oh, yeah.
He literally says, let me give you a login to my actual numbers. I've got nothing to hide. This business is kicking butt. And like, that is rare. That is rare. One of the things we're talking about later that's like in our little lecture, we don't have a lot of time, is about how entrepreneurs are the shell game, completely trying to fool you into things. And you gotta be cool. Like in the 90s would have been like, hey, you are, Elizabeth Holmes, and I'm confronting you about this Theranos nonsense. Whereas now you gotta be like, all right, so YC trained you how to do this. And I gotta deal with that. This guy is a rare breed. I mean, there's a lot of ethical people, but you were just like, my business is kicking ass and I have nothing to hide.
Well, I think because I failed before and I was successful before, so if you're in, you're in. If not, it's all good. There's plenty of money out there, but I like just transparency. I'm from the East Coast, so I just like to get right to it. And, it's the way it is.
Well, it's working. I love it. I love it.
Oh, what's our address here?
University Drive.
1 year. We better order that now.
No.
James, how much do it? Give him a ride at the airport. Hey, actually, a ride right here.
Okay,
You want to?
I'm pretty sure.
I appreciate that, sir.
You guys will never change for life.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, right, that's perfect.
Yeah.
Very Chapman.
10 minutes? Thank you.
Very Chapman, cool. So exactly when you want to leave.
10 minutes?
Don't cut it too close.
Yeah.
I gotta do
By the way, they don't have clear here. Do you?
Oh, they don't?
If they don't have clear, you don't have to we don't need it.
Yeah.
You
All right.
flying out of John Wayne?
Yeah.
It's the easiest.
Okay, gotta make sure this guy gets out on time.
What time's the flight?
Board's at 8:45.
Okay.
All right, you guys bounce under me, need you. Final question.
I just have a couple questions. The first question I have is, it's like just regular like jokes from are like poster, I guess, putting questions, like yes or no on the like app. How is that fact checked or vetted? And then second question is, do you have like a book or anything that I can read about? Because like I'm really interested in your philosophy and like the ethical, like just that type of stuff you're talking about.
Well, thank you. Yeah, for your first question, losers like me can do it to whoever out there. It's opened up now. So we are the platform and we put the onus on you as the creator, as the host, to create the content about some future thing. And then when it's time to declare, was it Drake versus Kanye? If it's time to say Drake, then you have to go and do that with a certain allotment of time. And if you don't, then you don't get the money. And so it's just behavioral economics. If you can figure out what those things are separately and then put them together, that's an amazing thing. And then we also have just community policing, so people aren't shy. And then there's a waiting time for escrow. We do all these things to just make sure everyone's happy and our users are delighted. That's a real thing. And then no, I don't have a book. I've been on his podcast and some podcasts, but you can find me on like LinkedIn or Instagram. We got some TV shows coming out.
Yeah, I wanted to see if you could talk about any of that. What can you say about that? This is very interesting. It's like real optionality
Yeah, it's fun to see.
from an investment perspective.
Yeah, it's like okay, so think about it like it's our game. It's like a TV game show with contestants and studio audience. Mark Burnett's producing it. He's like Survivor Shark Tank. He's an investor now as well. Kevin Hart's an investor. He's hosting the show. I'm an
So
executive.
time out. When I told my 13-year-old son about this deal, we're like playing lacrosse, playing cash. He's like, I was like, what are you thinking? Kind of a little bit gambling, a little worried about this. John's Kiffin comedy. He's like, Kevin Hart's gonna host a show, like, dating game or something, and about this. He's like, Jesus Christ, Dad, that's gonna be a gold mine.
Yeah, he's the man. He's super humble and he's self-deprecating. He's really funny in real life. I'm an EP on the show. It's really gonna be fun. And then the second show
With timing on that?
this year,
Okay.
big network and streaming. And then the second show called Follow Me out on debuts on July 9th on ABC first and Hulu.
And so any actual transactions that take place through the show, it's still the 12 and a half.
yeah, it all comes to verses. Yeah.
So it's
Plus
12
all
and a
that
half still.
All that marketing and awareness.
Yeah. So like, we're talking about CAC to LTV. Just think of the CAC value, let alone that they're actually getting paid the full take rate. It's pretty insane. I think part of the reason that's happening is that you aligned interests. So like, you should really like write a book for people to study, the playbook, because you managed to line up your planets first, and then you walked out onto the battlefield and calmly, non-violently took everything.
Well, I don't want to take all the credit for it because I was lucky enough to listen to one of our investors' roadblocks. It's like, John, build a self-serve model and get out of your own way, let the users take over, because it's a user-generated content world. Let them come up with the trends, topics, and events, the content's queen, and then let them motivate them to share it, giving them a cut, and then all of a sudden you have this beautiful design loop. That's not a new thing. It's just a better version of what we want to do. It's happened, right? There's no place to go and do that.
Okay, I'm gonna show up to these guys and get in the car.
Yeah, so I'm currently working for a startup and the CEO is not struggling, but going through the initial funding rounds. And basically my question to you was, if you were to be in a room with him right now, like what would you say in terms of helping raising funding right off the bat? And like, let's say if I were to be like helping him, like what would I do in order to meet people that would want to invest in it? Especially when we reach out to like, let's say our professor and he doesn't invest in that specific field, like what would you say?
So is he a first-time founder? What's his industry? Is he going after VCs or angels?
Both.
Okay, so it's probably gonna be impossible for him to go raise VC money out of the gate. I would probably give him some advice and say, go talk to some angel investors first, and then grow up to some family offices, then institutional like VCs, because the VCs, unless you or Peter Thiel's, family or whoever started his family, it's like, it's hard to go get VC money without traction unless you know people.
There is traction, just not 100 million a year traction. It's like, I think his MRR is like 200,000 right now.
Thank you. I would say he should go get a couple of advisors. Like, what's the industry?
Toys.
Okay, so go talk to some execs and some founders of toy companies like Mattel and whatever, right? Just get them to be friends with you.
Actually, I know a guy in LA who's ex-Mattel who's got a huge business right now in the toy space. He's raising money for us. It's a pretty good guy.
Yeah.
Oh, Jim, I'm gonna get a photo with everybody.
Go on.
Okay, let's do a quick photo. Yeah.
My dad had like the third.
Okay, guys, everybody pack it in. The same thing. We got it all packed in. This is your. That's your stuff? Yeah, definitely.
Oh, nice.
Got everybody in it?
Oh, we got everyone in it. We'll take a whole bunch of them. You guys want to do a video? Let's do a video. Andy Romans, what's happening here? You guys say what's up?
What's up? Pretty good
Chapman, Panthers, let's go.
Future entrepreneurs.
Look at this, bunch of entrepreneurs. I want to see you guys all win. This guy's the best human beings I know. All right, so make sure you just focus on your heart and get all your ideas and make a lot of money.
I think we got a new professor over here.
Let's go. I was back to school last night, so this is good. All right, let's do it. I'll come back.
Yeah, I'll see you soon. I'll see you soon.
Yeah, thanks for.
Wow.
Yeah.
Hey man, short and sweet, that's like. Yeah. Okay.